Alright, today I wanted to mix up a little of my hyperfixations in Metal Gear Solid and Pokemon. So today, we're going to be making Pokemon teams for the Metal Gear Solid 1 characters. Each character is going to receive a full party of 6 Pokemon, and I'm going to explain to you why I think these Pokemon deserve to be in these characters' parties. Jumping right in is our main man, Solid Snake, Big D, Mr. David himself, and this was honestly probably one of the hardest ones to make, but I think we landed on some 6 Pokemon that I think make sense. First up, we have Onix in his first slot, and I think this is just obvious. We needed some sort of snake Pokemon. It was just unacceptable to not have one, and after going through all the options, I think Onix just makes the most sense. I mean, he matches Snake's color scheme, number 1, and he is the solid Snake. He's made of solid rock. Like, it just makes sense. I mean, we could have gone with Ekans, but I don't know. I don't feel like Ekans really fits the vibes of Snake that much as Onix does anyway. And I think Snake could get a lot of use out of Onix, especially when fighting like Metal Gears and stuff. Like, Onix can go toe-to-toe with them. He can like wrap around them to hold them down so Snake can fire stinger missiles at them. And like, dude, imagine how sick it would be if Snake had like a snake bandana around Onix's like little fin thingamajig, whatever that shit is. When it comes to Snake's second Pokemon, he used to be a musher. He has like a ton of husky dogs before Metal Gear Solid 1.
Right now, my 50 Huskies are my only family. I've got to take care of them.
And we have to get a Pokemon in there that works with that somehow. Now, Arcanine is probably the closest thing we have to a Husky, and I'm using that term very, very loosely. But I think it just makes sense if we're going to have a sledding dog. Looking at all the options in Pokemon, I think Arcanine makes the most sense. It's big, it's very powerful. That fur and fire typing allows it to traverse those cold climates without shivering its boots off, you know? So yeah, I think Arcanine just makes sense for Snake to have. I'm also very tickled at the idea of Snake just sitting down to watch like Stranger Things Season 5 on Netflix, and there's like 12 Arcanines like crowding the couch with him. I think for Snake's third Pokemon, it's gotta be Coughing. This nicotine-addicted man is not passing up the literal smoke Pokemon. Dude is gonna grab Coughing and go all over that bitch. Now for Snake's fourth Pokemon, you're gonna have to hear me out on this one. It's Dedenne. I know it's weird, but let me explain. Snake has a pretty acute fondness for those field mice that helped him through the vents in Shadow Moses.
Yeah, I'll be fine. Way I remember it, these ducks aren't that complicated. And I had some friends to show me the way.
Friends?
Friends. Little furry ones.
So I think some sort of mouse or rodent-ish Pokemon is not out of the question for Snake. He could send them through little vents, through little tubes, and I think it being an electric type can also help him with, disabling cameras or other electronic devices or locks. And I think Dedenne in particular could work extremely well just because Dedenne has those little antenna on its cheeks, and I'm just sitting there, I don't know, I just think it's really cute imagining Snake trying to get in contact with the codec or a radio frequency by like tilting the little whiskers on Dedenne. For Snake's fifth Pokemon, I think it has to be Lucario, right? I genuinely don't think there is a better pick here. I think Lucario being a fighting type and being like a hero kind of Pokemon, it fits Snake very well. I mean, he has like the bandana bits in the back. Like he visually resembles Snake pretty well. And I think Lucario's ability to use Aura to detect people and guards that are nearby would be extremely useful on a stealth mission. Now for Snake's last Pokemon, we're doubling up on snakes. And we're going to go with Seviper. Now, I think there's a lot of different choices I could have gone with for this last slot. However, I think some of the other characters later on this list deserved them a little more than Snake did. So I made the executive decision to use Seviper here, and it's going to play into another character we have later. When it comes to Otacon, I think it was really easy to just pick 6 Pokemon that fit his personality and character traits extremely well. And just starting off with number 1, I think Blipbug. I mean, this is pretty self-explanatory. Blipbug is a little egghead creature, right? So, like, it just matches Otacon. It reminds me a lot of Metal Gear Solid 1's Otacon model, and I like it there for that reason. For his second Pokemon, I think Sobble fits extremely well. I mean, just fits with his cowardice, with Sobble's crying and everything. And Sobble's ability to turn invisible, I think is, dude, that's literally Otacon to a T, especially in Metal Gear Solid 1, where he uses the stealth camo to get around while invisible.
Don't worry. If I do this, it doesn't matter. I just pretend like I'm not here, and then I'm not scared.
For his third Pokemon, let's just throw Rotom in there. I mean, a Pokemon that can go into any electrical device and operate and power it. I think Rotom just fits well. It fits well for any nerd-like character or anything, you know. It could help in his research, help in powering different machines. For his fourth Pokemon, Wimpod. I mean, this is the coward Pokemon. It runs away when it gets under half HP. It honestly has Otacon's color scheme pretty well, especially for Metal Gear Solid 1. I mean, it's a pretty obvious one. For his fifth Pokemon, I think we're going to pick Porygon. I mean, Porygon is a Pokemon comprised of code. It's an artificial Pokemon. I think Otacon would create something like this in order to, like, infiltrate different computer systems or help him out in his research tasks. Listen, I know Otacon's otaku ass was using one tab to research Metal Gear and develop that shit, and on the other tab in the background, he had Porygon torrenting episodes of Bible Black. For his sixth and final Pokemon, I decided to go with Kling Klang. It's the literal Metal Gear character, but I think Otacon deserves it the most, being one of the creators behind Metal Gear Rex. I think he should be the one that has the actual Metal Gear Pokemon. Moving on to Liquid Snake, in his first Pokemon slot, we're gonna throw on Tyrantrum. I mean, Tyrantrum is like the Tyrant King Pokemon. It's the T-Rex, the king who throws temper tantrums all over the place. Like, I think it's just really befitting of Liquid Snake's character. And Tyrantrum also serves as a little reference to Metal Gear Rex. I mean, it's the T-Rex Pokemon that throws temper tantrums. It's perfect for Liquid Snake. Now, Liquid Snake needs a snake Pokemon too, and I settled on Servine. Servine is noted as having a giant sense of self-pride that sometimes gets in its own way, and I can't think of anything better for Liquid Snake. That's literally just his character. For Liquid's third Pokemon, we're going to go with Yanmega as a reference to the Hind D boss fight. Liquid piloting the Hind D is a pretty iconic part of Metal Gear Solid 1, and I think having a Pokemon that resembles a military helicopter would be pretty cool to have in his arsenal. For his fourth Pokemon, we're going to throw in Alolan Dugtrio, and this one is just a real obvious pick. No particular reason outside of it looks like him, so I would just be remiss to not have the long blonde hair Pokemon on the long blonde hair character. Like, come on. For his fifth Pokemon, we're going to go with Primeape. I think this really encapsulates Liquid Snake's unending rage and seethe. And honestly, if I can be real with you, I think if Eli from Metal Gear Solid 5 was a Pokemon personified, he'd be a Mankey. For sure would be a Mankey. Like, it just this little, like, like, just constantly just angry at the world. And dude, imagine Liquid Ocelot having an Annihilate. Like, that would be so perfect and fitting. For his final Pokemon, there was pretty much no other choice. It has to be Mewtwo. Mewtwo is literally Liquid Snake as a Pokemon. Like, I think everyone saw this coming. It's a Pokemon who's a clone of another Pokemon and is angry about it, and that makes it their entire personality. Like you could say, like, oh, we should have given Solid Snake a Mew then, but I don't know. I don't feel like Solid Snake is a Mew kind of guy. For Vulcan Raven, I actually struggled really quite a bit to pick his team, and no, I'm just fucking with you. It's Honchkrow, then Murkrow, then Corviknight, then Corvisquire for the first four, and you know fucking why, dude.
Quoth the Raven.
Eat my shorts.
For the last two, we can get a little more creative, and I think Hisuian Braviary would fit really well on his team. Both Braviary and Hisuian Braviary really fit with his Inuit Alaska background, and I think Hisuian Braviary just edges regular Braviary out a little bit, just because I associate that one more with the snow thanks to Legends Arceus, and I think the little psychic bird thing on its forehead is very similar to Vulcan Raven's sort of raven tattoo that he has on his head. He does that weird little astral projection thing with it for a moment. I think the little hint of psychic is nice to have in there. Now, I wanted to get an ice type in there, especially to represent his boss arena from Metal Gear Solid 1 and his Alaskan heritage at the same time. So I'm going to go with Mamoswine. I think Mamoswine just fits the best out of anybody, with Mamoswine being this big, bulky tank of a Pokemon. Now, I did consider some other Pokemon that had more relevance, like his chain gun or something like that. Like, I considered Octillery at a certain point, but I really think we need to get an ice type in there, and I think Mamoswine just fits the bill the best. Like, if he was any Pokemon personified, I think he'd be a Mamoswine. Now, with Psycho Mantis, I think we have a lot of options to choose from, but the first one I'm going to choose is Malamar. I think Malamar represents him pretty well and is pretty famous for having the ability to mind control other creatures, so I think we should get that in there right away. For his second Pokemon slot, we're going to throw a Behem in there. Behem is known to control memories and erase memories and what have you of other creatures. And I think that really plays into Psycho Mantis' ability to, like, read your memory card.
So, you like Suicune?
With Bayonet, we're throwing a little bit of a bone to Screaming Mantis from Metal Gear Solid 4. Bayonet is a doll that has come to life through the feeling of abandonment and whatnot, and I think that represents Psycho Mantis' character background a little bit, while also being a little double entendre to Screaming Mantis from Metal Gear Solid 4. I think it works on a lot of levels. Similarly, I think Alolan Marowak should be on there, representing the Man on Fire from Metal Gear Solid 5. Alolan Marowak's fire is like the spirit of its dead mother channeled into, like, the rage of flames, and I think that just perfectly represents what he was doing in Metal Gear Solid 5 with the Man on Fire. Now, I'm going to spoil things right now for you a little bit, but there is no Mantis Pokemon in his party, and honestly, if I can be real with you, it's because none of them really fit that well for Psycho Mantis. However, I do have Orbeetle here for you, which I think still comes close to the visual look of, like, a Mantis-y creature. Honestly, a lot of its body and colors are pretty similar to Psycho Mantis itself. Orbeetle's powers can also be used to mind control creatures, so I think he fits the best out of all the available sort of bug-ish Mantis-type Pokemon we got. For his last Pokemon, we're just going to throw Alakazam on there. I know it's a little bit of a vanilla pick, but listen, he's the strongest psychic in the world. So is Alakazam. Alakazam famously does telekinesis, you know, all that shit. It just makes sense, you know, just throw it on there. It'd be weird if he didn't have Alakazam on his party. Now for Sniper Wolf, I think the first 3 Pokemon she should have is just all 3 wolf Pokemon. Lycanroc Midday, Lycanroc Midnight, Lycanroc Dusk. Just give her the whole squad. I think that just fits perfectly well, and honestly, we don't have many other great candidates who are, like, overtly wolves to fit in here. For number 4, we're going to do Inteleon. I feel like this one is the next most obvious Pokemon that she could have. I mean, Inteleon is a sniper Pokemon. When it Gigantamaxes, it gets that sniper rifle up there in the tower. You know, they could sort of work together. One of them could be like a spotter, and the other one could be like the one that shoots. I don't know. I think it'd be neat, and it makes a lot of sense. For her 5th Pokemon, we're going to go with Salazzle, and this is sort of meshing with her femme fatale vibe here. You know, maybe she uses, like, Salazzle's pheromones to, like, make some of her prey fall in love with her and stuff, you know? Stuff like that. I just think, when I'm thinking femme fatale, I'm thinking Salazzle. That's the Pokemon that you would attribute to that. So let's just be basic and throw that on there. Now for the last one, hear me out, because I think I cooked, but I'm gonna have to explain it to you. We have Oinkalone Female. Sniper Wolf is known for taking copious amounts of diazepam that calms her nerves when she's trying to snipe and steady her aim. And female Oinkalone can actually emit a scent from its tail that calms nearby creatures. I think she'd use it. She'd have this posted up next to her, you know, keeping her calm while she's steadying her sniper aim and stuff. Now, for Revolver Ocelot, I think we cooked here. Now, his first Pokemon, this is non-negotiable, has got to be Remoraid. In case you didn't know, Remoraid is supposed to be shaped like a gun, namely a revolver, so I think he's just got to have, like, one of them at least. I find it very amusing thinking of Revolver Ocelot having, like, a Pokeball on his belt instead of, like, a revolver, and he just releases a Remoraid into his hand to shoot water pistols at people. I think that'd be really funny. Now, his number 2 has got to be one of the most obvious Pokemon choices in the world for him. It's got to be Liepard. I mean, it's the closest thing I think we have to an Ocelot in Pokemon right now. And, I mean, in the name, it's a lying leopard, kind of. It's a lying cat. It's a lying cat. And this guy is the lying cat. Like, he's got to have this thing. It's the closest thing to him that we possibly have. For number 3, it's going to be a little more basic. We're going to have Mudsdale, and that's purely off of just, you know, cowboy aesthetics. You know, he rides some horses in MGS5. He's got to have some sort of horse Pokemon to fit with his aesthetics, and I think Mudsdale comes the closest, especially in terms of color palette. Now, stick with me here, because this next one's a deep cut. We have Iron Crown, and listen to me. I thought about this one all the way through. So in case you were unaware, one of Ocelot's favorite animals is the Markhor, a type of goat that you can find in Metal Gear Solid 3. In fact, you can find one in his boss fight in that game, and if you attack it, it'll provoke a reaction out of Ocelot. And Cobalion is the closest thing we have to a Markhor in Pokemon. Its horn pattern and fur on the front resemble a Markhor pretty closely. However, I think that Iron Crown would be even more fitting since it's like a fake version of Cobalion.
I found you, faker.
I think having a fake version of the real thing is just perfect for Ocelot as a character. I especially like that Cobalion is like a justice Pokemon, like it's one of the Three Musketeers, so it's kind of like a hero Pokemon. So giving him the fake version of a hero Pokemon who's actually good, I think, ooh, that's just cinema right there. For his 5th Pokemon, we're gonna have Lurantis. Now, I almost gave this to Psycho Mantis. However, I think Lurantis fits better here thematically with Ocelot, because Lurantis is a grass Pokemon that's pretending to be a bug Pokemon, and the king of double crossers has gotta have a Pokemon as deceptive as this on his team. For his last Pokemon, we're gonna throw in Zangoose. Now, this is partially based on vibes, just because, I don't know, it fits him. I just take a look at Zangoose and I can really picture it standing next to him, especially in Metal Gear Solid 5 Ocelot for some reason. But I think this gives him a little bit of a parallel with Solid Snake. Solid Snake having a Seviper and him having a Zangoose and having that rivalry happening there. I think that's a very clever thing. Like, imagine them fighting in MGS4 on top of Outer Haven, and they're fist fighting while their Zangoose and Seviper are also fighting in the background. Like, that would be peak cinema. That'd be peak cinema. And yes, you bet your sweet bippy that I did Decoy Octopus. I know nobody gives a fuck about Decoy Octopus, but I don't care. I think his Pokemon party would be really easy to make, and we're gonna do it right here. Number 1, obviously he's gotta have Ditto. Like, that's just insanely obvious. Next, he has a Mimikyu for pretty much the same reasons. It's a Pokemon that disguises itself as another Pokemon, and it's a ghost type, representing the fact that Decoy Octopus died in his disguise. And now we get to get a little more creative, where I'm going to put Chatot in his 3rd slot. Chatot could help him mimic the voices of his victims to help match them better. I think that would be a very fun, unique use of this Pokemon.
If memory serves, I recall Chatot can mimic human speak.
Now, for his 4th Pokemon, I think we're going to do Smeargle. Smeargle can copy the moves of other Pokemon and gain them permanently, and I think that's perfect for a guy who's trying to recreate and replicate other people and whatnot. I think a Pokemon that can use any move in the entire game, essentially, would be perfect for him. For number 5, we're going to put Zoroark on there, and that's, again, for obvious reasons. It's a Pokemon that can create illusions and make itself look like any other Pokemon that it wants. For his 6th Pokemon, ooh, this one is for true Decoy Octopus stans. As you might know, Decoy Octopus mimics his victims down to their blood type, siphoning their blood and actually replacing his blood with theirs. And wouldn't you know it, Golbat has that same ability as stated in the Pokédex. It's a match made in heaven. They were made for each other. Next is Gray Fox. First, we're going to give him Hisuian Zoroark, not only to represent a Gray Fox visually, but it's like a ghost Pokemon that came back out of malice and strong negative emotions. And I think that fits him perfectly. It's a Gray Fox that came back because of strong emotions that it had. Second, we're going to give him Porygon Z. I know we gave Porygon to Otacon earlier, but Porygon Z, I think, really encapsulates Gray Fox as well. It as a sort of glitched, corrupted, and tampered with version of an artificial creature. Like, that's Gray Fox. That's Gray Fox. You know when Gray Fox is like tweaking out in the Metal Gear Solid 1 boss fight? Like, it's perfect. I can imagine Porygon Z doing that right alongside him. For his 3rd Pokemon, I think the most fitting Pokemon possible for Gray Fox is Genesect. It's literally a ancient dead Pokemon that was brought back to life artificially and cybernetically enhanced by a bunch of villains. Like, it's perfect. It's perfect. They're a match made in heaven. They even got red eyes. They even got the he has your eyes, honey. For his 4th Pokemon, we're gonna throw in Ninjask. For obvious reasons. It's a ninja Pokemon.
You're that ninja.
For his 5th Pokemon, we're gonna do Absol. And this might seem a little weird, but let me explain. The appearance of Absol often forewarns of disasters to come. In multiple games, Cyborg Ninja's persona is used to foretell of certain events or warn certain characters of certain things. I mean, I think it's just perfect. And for his last Pokemon, we gotta work a sword in there somehow. So we're gonna do Aegislash. I mean, he's an undead swordsman kind of Pokemon. It's perfect. It's a guy who's
Neither truly alive nor truly dead.
For our last character of the video, we're going to have Meryl. And honestly, this is probably one of the hardest ones to put together. We had to dig deep for this one. So number 1, we got Vulpix, not only for the visual similarity, but also because of her love and admiration of Foxhound when she was younger. Next, I want to work in some of the Rat Patrol into her Pokemon roster here, so we're going to go with Stunky to represent Johnny Sasaki, for obvious reasons. Similarly, we're going to throw Phalanx on there, representing how in Metal Gear Solid 4, her and the Rat Patrol are able to communicate with each other via nanomachines and synchronize their attacks together as a unit. I think Phalanx is the closest representation we have of that in the Pokemon world. For number 4, we're going to do Watchog, representing her as the leader of the Rat Patrol. In this case, the Patrat Patrol. I think Watchog just, you know, it resembles her with all the little, like, vest and everything it has on. It has some of her color scheme. We had to throw a rat in there somewhere, and honestly, Watchog fit the best, as much as I don't like that Pokemon. For number 5, I wanted to give her a Riolu as a connection to Solid Snake and his Lucario, representing her as the rookie.
I'm no rookie.
And as her 6th and final Pokemon slot, we're going to throw Marowak on there. And I think Marowak works on a couple of levels here. I think Marowak really represents Meryl's ability to overcome all the challenges and sadness in her life and become a stronger and more confident and tough person later on down the line, like in Metal Gear Solid 4. And I like to further reinforce this with the fact that in Metal Gear Solid 4, the emotion that she's associated with when her nanomachines are getting all whacked out by Liquid Ocelot is sadness. She's seen crying just like a Cubone cries. So having Marowak being there shows her growth as a character. And that's all I'm going to have for you today. Let me know what you thought about my choices. Is there any other Pokemon that you would have picked instead? Let me know in the comments. And before I go, I just want to say, you know, thank you for all the support on the last video that I put out. I wasn't expecting it to get that much attention. We're almost at 1K subscribers already. You know, if you like this kind of content, you want to see more, subscribe and like the video, and we'll get more out there. And if you have any suggestions for videos, just let me know. I'll take them into consideration, and we'll try to get some fun stuff going out there. I appreciate your support, and I'll catch you guys later. Bye-bye.